Imagine waking up every morning with nothing but water in every direction. No land. No rescue. No way home. Your food is whatever you can catch with your bare hands. Your only source of fresh water is the rain. Every day, the scorching sun burns your skin, and every night, the darkness reminds you how completely alone you are. Most people wouldn't survive a week. Many wouldn't survive a month. But one man survived for 438 days, alone in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. His name was Salvador Alvarenga. At first, many people refused to believe his story. Some called it impossible. Others claimed it was a lie. But the evidence would reveal one of the greatest survival stories in modern history. This is the unbelievable true story of the fisherman who refused to die. Long before the world knew his name, Salvador Alvarenga was just another fisherman trying to earn a living. Born in El Salvador, he later moved to the Pacific coast of Mexico, where fishing became his daily routine. Like many local fishermen, he spent long hours at sea, often leaving before sunrise and returning with the day's catch. Life was never easy, but the ocean was familiar. Alvarenga understood its changing tides, unpredictable weather, and hidden dangers better than most. Friends described him as experienced, confident, and willing to take risks when others stayed ashore. Years of fishing had taught him how to navigate rough waters and survive difficult conditions. By 2012, he had become one of the most skilled fishermen in his community. Countless trips into the Pacific had ended safely, giving him every reason to believe the next one would be no different. But sometimes, experience isn't enough. Sometimes, nature has plans that no one can predict. In November 2012, Salvador accepted what seemed like an ordinary fishing trip. He packed fuel, food, water, fishing gear, and prepared his small fiberglass boat for another day at sea. He had no idea that this ordinary journey would become one of the longest survival ordeals ever recorded. On the morning of November 17, 2012, Salvador Alvarenga set out from the fishing village of Costa Azul on Mexico's Pacific coast. Accompanying him was a young fisherman named Ezequiel Cordoba, who had agreed to help on the trip. Their boat was small, just over 20 feet long, and powered by a single outboard engine. It wasn't designed for long voyages across the open ocean. The plan was simple. Spend about a day catching sharks, marlin, and other valuable fish, then return home with a profitable catch. At first, everything went according to plan. The weather was calm, the sea was manageable, and the fishermen quickly filled their boat with hundreds of kilograms of fish. But far out on the Pacific, conditions can change in minutes. As the day progressed, dark clouds gathered on the horizon. The wind became stronger, and the gentle waves transformed into towering walls of water. Salvador immediately realized they were in trouble. He contacted his boss by radio, explaining that a powerful storm had appeared without warning. His employer urged him to return immediately, but the ocean had already become too violent. Rain hammered the boat. Towering waves crashed over the deck. The small engine struggled against the enormous force of the sea. Within hours, the fishermen were no longer navigating the ocean. The ocean was controlling them. The first challenge was water. Without fresh drinking water, a person can survive only a few days. When their supplies ran out, Salvador began collecting rainwater whenever storms passed overhead. Every drop became precious. During dry periods, desperation grew. Food soon became another struggle. The fish they had caught spoiled quickly under the blazing tropical sun. To stay alive, Salvador adapted. He caught fish with his bare hands. He trapped sea turtles and seabirds whenever they landed on the boat. Sometimes he ate jellyfish and tiny sea creatures drifting nearby. Everything was eaten raw. There was no fire. No cooking. No comfort. The scorching sun burned their skin every day, while the cold nights drained what little strength remained. Their clothes fell apart. Salt covered every wound. Sleep became almost impossible as the boat drifted endlessly over the waves. Yet each sunrise meant one more chance to survive. One more day. One more battle against the Pacific. The physical struggle was only half the battle. The emotional challenge would prove even harder. Ezequiel Cordoba found it difficult to eat raw animals and drink whatever rainwater they could collect. As weeks passed, his body became weaker and weaker. Salvador encouraged him to keep eating, reminding him that survival depended on accepting the impossible. But Ezequiel could no longer continue. After months at sea, he died. Suddenly, Salvador was completely alone. He later recalled speaking to his friend's body for days because he couldn't bear the silence. Eventually, he realized he had to let go. With great sadness, he committed his companion's body to the ocean. Now there was no conversation. No shared hope. No one to witness another sunrise. Only endless water stretching in every direction. Loneliness became an enemy just as dangerous as hunger. To protect his sanity, Salvador created routines. He talked to birds, watched the stars, counted the days as best he could, and refused to give up. He believed that if he stopped hoping, he would stop living. Weeks turned into months. Months slowly became more than a year. By now, Salvador Alvarenga had lost all sense of normal time. He no longer knew the exact date. The only calendar he had was the rising and setting of the sun. His body had changed dramatically. His beard had grown long, his skin was badly sunburned, and years of constant exposure to salt water had left deep scars on his hands and feet. Every day followed the same routine. At sunrise, he searched for fish or seabirds. Whenever rain clouds appeared, he hurried to collect every drop of fresh water he could. During long dry spells, he had to survive on only small amounts of water, carefully rationing what little he had. Sharks often circled the boat, while whales occasionally surfaced nearby. At night, the stars became his only companions. Looking at the endless sky helped him remember that the world beyond the ocean still existed. There were moments when he believed rescue was close. Sometimes he spotted large ships on the horizon and desperately waved, shouted, and raised anything he could to attract attention. But the ships were too far away. None of them saw the tiny fishing boat drifting across the vast Pacific. Even after hundreds of days alone, Salvador refused to surrender. As long as he could breathe, he believed there was still a chance that the ocean would carry him somewhere safe. That determination became the reason he survived one day longer. And then another. Then, after 438 unimaginable days at sea, something appeared on the horizon. Land. At first, Salvador thought he was imagining it. But as the boat drifted closer, the outline became clearer. Palm trees, a sandy shoreline, and solid ground stood before him. The current had carried him to a remote island in the Marshall Islands, more than 6,000 miles from where his journey had begun. Using the last of his strength, Salvador climbed out of the boat and staggered onto the beach. Nearby residents were stunned. Before them stood a man with a long beard, badly sunburned skin, and tattered clothing. He was weak, exhausted, and barely able to speak. Authorities were quickly contacted. Doctors examined him and were amazed. Despite severe dehydration, malnutrition, and the physical effects of more than a year at sea, he had survived. News of the rescue spread around the world within hours. The impossible survival story of Salvador Alvarenga had become international headlines. As incredible as Salvador's story sounded, not everyone believed it. Some critics argued that surviving alone at sea for 438 days was impossible. Others questioned parts of his timeline and wondered whether he had exaggerated what had happened. Experts, journalists, and investigators began examining every detail of his account. Oceanographers studied Pacific currents and concluded that the route described by Salvador was scientifically possible. Medical specialists found that his physical condition matched what someone might experience after such a prolonged survival ordeal. Investigators also confirmed that a fishing boat had disappeared from Mexico in late 2012, matching Salvador's account. While some questions remain, the majority of survival experts believe that the evidence strongly supports his extraordinary story. His experience has since been documented in interviews, news reports, and books, becoming one of the most remarkable survival cases ever recorded. Whether viewed as unbelievable or inspirational, Salvador Alvarenga's journey continues to challenge what people think is humanly possible. The Pacific Ocean tested Salvador Alvarenga in every possible way. It took away his boat's engine. It took away his food. It took away his companion. It even tried to take away his hope. Yet somehow, day after day, he chose to keep living. His story reminds us that survival is not only about physical strength. It is also about determination, adaptability, and the refusal to give up when every circumstance says you should. More than 438 days alone at sea sounds like the plot of a Hollywood movie. But this really happened. One small fishing boat. One man. An endless ocean. And one of the greatest survival stories the world has ever known. If this story amazed you, let us know in the comments. How long do you think you could survive alone in the middle of the ocean? Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next documentary.